Hey everybody, Kaoiji here. So I thought I'd give you guys some of my opinions when it comes to Tower of Fantasy now that it's been out for a week. But before I do, let's get into some of the history behind the game. Tower of Fantasy is a gacha MMORPG published by Level Infinite and Perfect World Studios and developed by Perfect World and Halta Studios. During its original release in China, it did cause quite a stir because there were some stolen assets. These stolen assets more specifically were part of their promotional material, with some of the assets being taken from Honkai Impact, with them creating a 1-to-1 ratio of a fan animation, and with some promotional screenshots that were akin to Genshin Impact. The reason why I bring this up is because I don't want anybody to think that I'm ill-informed of the history behind the game. So this video is really just going to be focusing on the game itself and nothing else. I'm going to try to limit the ability of comparisons to other games, but we'll see what happens. So first, let's start with some of the pros. The gacha. With Tower of Fantasy having gacha elements, one of the most important things is how generous or how pay to win the gacha actually is. For the most part, the answer is it's not very pay to win. When you hit around level 21, there are 5 different kinds of banners. You have access to black nuclei, gold nuclei, red nuclei, and then 2 matrix banners, gold and red. Gold and black nuclei are completely free to play, both of which are being rewards that you can obtain via exploration as well as events. The gold matrices are a little bit different. You don't have to spend any money in these because as you continue playing the game, as you get higher levels and access to later game dungeons, the gold matrices will become a more common draw. Additionally, doing world bosses a couple times a week will net you the opportunity to not only get these yellow matrices, but also have a chance at getting a SSR weapon. More commonly, they'll be able to drop SR weapons, but as you hit the max awakening on these weapons, they'll get converted into black golds, which you can then trade to get additional SSRs or other resources from the weapon store. One thing to know is the actual gacha system itself when you're doing pulls. The gold and red summons have a 2% chance of being able to get an SSR. Once you get an SSR, however, the pity does not reset. So if for whatever reason you get an SSR at 79 and 80 was supposed to be your guaranteed pity, you will still receive another SSR once you hit that pity at 80. And this works for every banner except for black nuclei, which those are a much more common spawn, where the SSR rate is at a 0.3%. As far as pay to win goes, the only thing that you need to worry about is your black crystal rate. You'll be able to get black crystals from a variety of ways in game, and you want to be spending these exclusively on red nuclei or the limited time matrices, as black crystals are the only ways to obtain these summons outside of very select events. The next thing we're going to talk about is the character creator. Character creation for the most part is pretty decent for being a free-to-play MMORPG, and as the game will progress, there will be new accessories, new hairstyle pieces, as well as different outfits to be able to put on your characters. Outfits unfortunately are a little bit limited, however you can use the simulacra, which you wind up getting from obtaining the weapons. So for whatever reason you don't want to use your created character, you can use any of the characters from the weapons that you pulled from. Aside from the gacha, matrices are also really well done in this game. They work like artifacts or chips from other gacha games, where you can equip 4 of them onto each individual weapon. Doing this will allow you to boost some of the stats and or benefits that each weapon receives. Set bonuses are either 2, 3, or 4, with most of the SSRs being at a 2 or 4 set, allowing you to be able to build to your advantage per situation. And then finally, mounts. Mounts are available in game, and most of these will be available through in-game farming methods or events or PvP. So with this game having one of the best gacha systems I've ever seen, a decent character creator, some really good content that you can actually play through, overall this game seems like a win. However, there are some really big detriments that this game has. So now let's talk about the cons. Let's start with the biggest one first, which is time-gated content. Upon the release of Tower of Fantasy, content is gated in 2 ways. Server level, which increases steadily day by day. The first day the level cap was 18, the next day the level cap was 24, and then the day after that the level cap was 27. And it goes up little by little every day. Whereas that normally wouldn't be a problem when it comes to brand new players maybe joining in a couple months from now, they still have to worry about story gated content. The story will gate you out of certain chapters and certain scenarios each day depending on the day from you made your account, not from server time. So you'll only be able to progress throughout a limited amount of the story each day regardless of what the server cap actually is. Another problem you're going to wind up running into is that some of the combat is a little bit clunky. Sometimes dodging doesn't always work. There's no way to actually swap weapons without using your ultimate ability or your charge skill if that is charged for whatever reason. And combat is generally tied to a single button on your controller or your mouse, which requires you either pressing or holding the mouse button to be able to enact certain abilities, but sometimes they don't always go off when you hold the mouse button down. In addition to that, controller support is mostly there, but there are some things lacking from that feature. And then finally, one of the things that's going to turn a lot of people off the most going into the future is going to be the vitality system. The vitality cap is 180, which would generally mean that you're only able to to run maybe 2 joint operations in a 24-hour period, and that's kind of crazy because other things also require vitality. However, with things like world bosses and other scenarios in the game, you may not need to always worry about vitality other than maybe getting matrices and other armor pieces. And then finally, some things in the exploration world are also time gated, so it'll take at least a week for you to be able to complete all of your exploration simply because of time gates alone. Overall, Tower Fantasy has the potential to become a mainstay within the market, rivaling other games that might be similar to it. However, the biggest problem is going to be the time gates lasting all the way up until November, making it so that way there will be a lot of content that players won't be able to access until sometime in that time frame. Most players who are going to be starting in maybe a week from now or even maybe a month from now are also going to have problems progressing through the story, as they're going to be time gated from that. So no matter how generous the game might be and no matter how frequent events might be, having the inability to fully enjoy the game is going to be one of the biggest detriments that Tower Fantasy has. There are server issues, there's long queues, there's even lag during some of the world bosses, there's bugs where maybe you're jumping through the map, but all of these things are manageable and fixable, copium, provided that the developers actually care about the game enough to actually continue to update it. And hopefully they do. There's nothing wrong with having more games like this on the market, and unfortunately, even though there are some things with the game's past that aren't necessarily great, more successful games is not a bad thing. It drives competition and eventually better games will release as a result. Tower Fantasy itself, in my opinion, again, because all of this is my opinion, is a mixed bag, but for the most part, it's a good mixed bag more than it is a bad one. If the game will actually let me play it and not say, hey, you need to stop for today. But with that being said, I really do like the game and I'm hoping that it is successful. I do like games like Genshin, and occasionally I still do play that. I still play games like Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. Overall, I would just like to see all of these games succeed. So time will tell, and we'll see what happens when it comes to Tower Fantasy and all these other games. But like I said, this is just my opinion, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys again for watching. Stay awesome, stay beautiful, and that's it for today. See you guys in the next video. Peace. I'm out.